And what is your favorite sports curse or most notable sports curse, however you want to term it? That's the X Platform question of the day, with the Braves being cursed, well, overall, but especially in the state of California. They have lost 13 straight times, going back to that wild card series loss to the Padres in the opening round last year. 0-11 this year. Overall, 5 in a row, 7 of 8. And we'll just keep saying it. Now you got to start thinking about what you're doing with this team as far as the younger guys, as far as figuring out what the future has in store for you, because you're one of 6. Jeff Rancourt mentioned it this morning on the Locker Room. One of 6 teams in Major League Baseball that still do not have 40 wins. So that's where you are right now.
Yeah, your plans now are, what do I do in 2025 that helps 2026?
That's it.
You got dropped by a team that is the second worst run differential team in baseball, and it's not like close. They're terrible, minus 140. You got beat by 9 runs by a team whose team ERA is the second worst in baseball, only behind the Colorado Rockies. I did something last night. You know, every once in a while you kind of joke, but sometimes it's not a joke, that I just speak things into existence. The end of the pregame show last night, I said, if I was in Vegas, I'd walk up and I'd find a guy and say, listen, I'd like to lay an action bet. What do you want to do? I said, over 5.5 home runs. I literally called 6 home runs last night. And I said, this is the type of ballpark that I don't care if the Braves play small ball. Just swing out of your shoes. Well, the problem is the distribution was 5-1. It was 6 home runs. And the Oakland A's, who stink at home. They're 17-29 now at home. They dropped you. This was... So I used a boxing analogy again with Didier Fuentes, we'll get to in a second. But this was losing a fight where the referee starts to, and by the time he gets to 4, it's over. I'm not counting to 7. I don't think...
Just wave your hands.
I know you're not getting up at 8. And even if you get up at 8, you're going to go back down on an A. I'm going to stop it anyway. So you get to 4 and you ask your corner to come out to make sure that you're going to be okay. Like you're going to be able to count for the rest of your life. That's how bad you were beaten up last night by a team that doesn't do that to anybody.
In case you missed it, the first 2 pitches of the first inning, an inside-the-park home run by Lawrence Butler, who went to Westlake High School here in town, and then he hits a batter, the all-star Jacob Wilson. Then the third batter hits a 2-run homer, so at the blink of an eye, it's 3-0. And then the other Max Muncy, not the one that plays for the Dodgers, but the one that plays for the A's, hits a 2-run homer, all off of Fuentes, and at the blink of an eye, it is 5-0. He leaves with the bases loaded and nobody out in the second inning. Jesse Chavez comes in, gets an out, then gives up a grand slam. So 9-0 in the second inning. It becomes 10-0. The Braves get a single run, and 10-1 is your final.
So I could go into detail on this, but I'll just gently lay it right here. You only struck out 4 times last night to a staff that has a 5.35 ERA. So you had 23 balls in play. You still only ended up with 3 situations with a runner in scoring position, which, of course, you were 0 for 3 in. You put 23 balls in play, and you only had 3 opportunities with runners in scoring position. And I can go on and on and on. And we'll do the Didier Fuentes thing, but I had mentioned last week or the other day, the idea that they called up Jesse Chavez is everything you need to know about 2025. Everything you need to know. And you go, well, why blame him? I said, no, you're missing the point. I'm not blaming him. This is the example of what 2025 is Jesse Chavez is on the active roster. Then you do the 20-year-old with the 52-year-old in a back-to-back game against a terrible team in Oakland. And by the way, they're not terrible compared to you. They're just terrible compared to baseball. But you're them, and they're you. So I'm not telling you they're worse than us.
But that's who you are right now. You're on the level of the A's.
You pitched back-to-back Didier Fuentes and Jesse Chavez, and we're in desperation time. Now, desperation time is over. You can't be more desperate than desperate. So let's stop playing the, well, if they. Sure, I'll tell you what they would need to do. Go 51-21 to get to 90 wins. And you go, well, that's impossible. You know they were 51-17 after Fred McGriff got here? It's the most crazy number ever.
Yeah, history is not going to repeat itself.
No, because you don't get to, fly around the earth so fast that we spin it back to bringing Fred McGriff to the future in 2025, light something on fire in the ballpark, and you go 51-17. This team isn't built for that. Last night's starting pitcher, and in a game that you needed to win, the guy you brought in after him let you know what you are in 2025. We are, I'll use the word mess, and understand it. You went from being the second, third, fourth best team in baseball when it comes to odds to win the World Series. And now you're fighting not to be one of the 5 worst teams in baseball.
Right now you are one of the 5 worst teams in baseball. Right now you are.
Yeah, listen, if it's the Colorado Rockies that you're just saying, well, at least we're better than them. This is like what I say about Olympic scoring back in the old days. Throw out the high, throw out the low. So I'm not telling you you're the Tigers. I'm not telling you you're the Rockies. But you know who you were so much closer to? Like, you live in the neighborhood with the 5 worst teams in baseball. You're outside of the gated neighborhood of the teams that are actually playing for something.
Didier Fuentes gets sent down. Nathan Wiles has been called up. And I love what you said this morning during Atlanta Braves today. He's the kid in the bar. There's a scene in the movie A Bronx Tale when the bikers come in the bar and young Cologito's in the bar. And at one point, he catches a punch and then he cowers under the table. That's who Didier Fuentes is. He doesn't belong. I'm not saying he cowered, but he doesn't belong. It's pretty clear, and it's been clear since start number 1. He doesn't belong.
I'm taking an inexperienced guy and I'm putting him in the wrong weight class. That's a double-edged whammy. And can he get better? Sure. I put last night that he needs a reset in the minors, and somebody said, well, he's never even been set in the minors. I said, no. He needs a reset like a reset. He needs to – I hope he takes something out of this. But his stuff doesn't play, and he certainly doesn't know how to pitch. And that's not a slam on him. He's 20 years old. He shouldn't have been in this situation. That's the problem with the team big picture. There is no way after one spot start, that you should have said, oh, yeah, let's do it again, and let's do it again. So after 4, he'll go down in the minor leagues with an ERA that might be all-time terrible, like all-time terrible.
It's 13.85, his ERA. Here's what Brian Snicker had to say about his young starter after the game.
Now it just kind of spiraled on him. You know, it's a lot to process for a young guy, and it's been a rough go for him. And you know, he needs to go back and kind of just start pitching and getting in an environment that he's accustomed to being in.
Yeah, he needs to go back to his weight class, and going to AAA was probably above his weight class anyway. Having him up here was just. I don't want to call it criminal. I don't want to get overly dramatic, and I don't think the guy is ruined for life. Like some people were telling me, oh, you might have ruined him for life. I watched his body language. You ruined him for now. But if he wants to pitch in the major leagues, and it's important to him, and he got a taste of it, and he's willing to listen, and he's willing to be 20 and make the mistakes that a 20-year-old makes in the minor leagues away from the spotlight, he could be fine. He could be better than fine. But please, you got to stop with stuff, and it doesn't play at this level if you don't know how to pitch.
Listen, I mean, big picture, we have seen a lot of, and I'm not saying he's a Hall of Famer or a great pitcher, but we have seen a lot of great pitchers go through this, get bombarded. Tom Glavine, John Smoltz come to mind here in town, and then make the adjustments and become Hall of Famers. To repeat myself, I'm not saying that's what Didier Fuentes is going to be, but it's happened before. Young pitchers get roughed up, but they learn and they adjust. They go back down to the minors. Then they come back and get another chance, and they're better.
And the taste of the majors should be enough to say, boy, I still want this. He doesn't feel that way getting on the plane today. He feels like he's been kicked in the ass. And I have a 48-hour rule. I'll give this kid 72 or 96 because he needs to clear the mechanism.
But to me, the bigger problem is this offense and what is going on or not going on with this offense, because Jeffrey Springs gives up a single run in 6 innings. He had allowed a run within the first 3 innings in 10 of his 11 starts, and he shut him down last night. Something is going on inside the brains of this lineup, and it ain't good.
Well, I believe, and we'll talk to Sean Casey coming up in a little bit. I want to specifically go down this road with him if he can explain it. There's nobody that feels good enough about themselves that they can fool themselves that they're winning the battles. And Sean Casey was a good enough hitter at times where he wouldn't have cared who was on the mound. I keep going to the King Kong analogy. We should just pull that Training Day sound, clean it up a little bit. But there are times when you are King, blank, and Kong, and I don't care who it is. This is the exact opposite of that. There's nobody on this team. Nobody. Matt Olson maybe can feel good enough about himself where he goes with the I got a fighting chance. And I know what players tell you. Well, I got a new opportunity tonight. I'm 0 for 0, but here's where I start. There is this thing that when you get to the ballpark, when you know, I'm struggling, and it doesn't even matter who's on the mound. Do you think anybody thought last night, Jeffrey Springs, here's my chance to springboard it? No, because they're not that delusional. They're not that
and
delusional.
they go down quietly in the first. In the bottom of the first, it's 5-0, so the pressure is right back on. And we also know that Ronald Acuña Jr. was scratched from last night's game, tweaks the back, lifting weights, they said. He is now out indefinitely. In other words, he is day-to-day. Here he is through his interpreter, Franco Garcia, after the game.
No fue hoy, yo llegué bien como todos los días y fue a hacer mi gimnasio, que yo siempre hago gimnasio el primer día de cada serie, hice un buen movimiento y se me apretó y me dolió y ahí fue donde comencé a los tres.
Yeah, no, I felt good coming in the day, and it was just something that I felt doing a movement while going to the gym. The first day of every series is gym day for me, so I was in there and just did a movement and just felt it tighten up on me.
Isn't that weird? The first day of every series, so that's the only time you lift weights? You would think he'd lift weights a little bit more than that.
No, I don't know what his
Maybe
routine
I'm focusing on the wrong thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what his routine is. I'm not really. Yeah, I think you kind of. Well, look, here's the thing. The home run derby thing should be thought of immediately. He could wake up today and be fine. Legitimately be fine. If he misses 3 or 4 games and he plays 2, the home run derby, and again, I don't know what kind of power they have to tell him no if he really wants to do this, because he could also lie and say, I feel great, and then go do home run derby if he wants to. But if you miss 3 games because of this, and then you tell me, oh, I'm pretty good, I can go, I'm going to ask you. Because I unfortunately, I think we live in a world, maybe it's fortunate, that I only get to ask you, do you really want to do this? Is this really worth it?
The good news is you have 2 more games in Oakland, then 3 more games in St. Louis until the All-Star break is here. So you have time to feel better. And to repeat ourselves, he is listed as day-to-day. All of that being said, I'm not really sure I want him. I know it's at home, and I know he's excited to play at home and show off the home run derby at home, but I'm not sure I want him doing that.
I just hope this is the freak thing that they sort of tried to tell me it was last night. Hey, man, it's just a tweak. I'd rather do this, sit out a game. And it's also like in desperate times. Brian Snitker, here's the good news for Brian Snitker. Can I tell you what was taken off his plate? He never has to answer why Michael Harris isn't playing ever again, because he gave it last night. The guy I put in there is better than Michael Harris right now. So if Michael Harris plays 3 days and he's not in, you can ask whatever you want. You're there, I'm not. But if you're a media person and you ask Brian, why isn't Michael Harris playing? I don't know. The thing I told you like 5 days ago, did you just see he was 1 for 12 in the 3 games we played him? He doesn't have to answer to it anymore. That's over. This is not like, oh, can you go through this with me? Nobody has to do that anymore.
See, I think when you're 39 and 51, when you're this bad, and you're a veteran, and you've been there and done that, and you have a World Series title on your resume, I think now is the time to really be brutally honest about everything. Because you've got nothing to lose at this point.
As a player?
No, as a manager. You can answer everything honestly at this point. Because he comes from the Bobby Cox school, Brian Snitker. He's going to protect his players. At this point, who do you have to protect?
Well,
you got to call it like you see it, like he did with Michael Harris.
Yeah, I heard him last night.
Michael Harris can't hit his way out of a paper bag right now. That's why he's not playing. You've seen him. I've seen him. Everybody's seen him.
I don't think you do the paper bag thing. I just think you go, yeah, he's struggling. He's not very good. I even go with he's not very good right now because you're not lying about that. The paper bag thing.
He couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat, Chris. I mean, I can keep going.
Yeah, it's not 1956. Let's try to update some of this stuff.
That's why he's not playing.
Yeah. He doesn't have to answer that.
What do I care? I'm done after this year anyway. Think I want to be around this? I got grandkids.
And please, here's another one. I'm not telling anybody what to do or ask. I'm really not. But lineup construction, I don't need any more questions about why you did this.
No, this is the lineup. Let's move forward. Let's keep everything simple.
What it is. The answer is I'm trying.
Yep. What would you do? Because I'm willing to listen.
Don't do that.
I am open to all suggestions.
I know there are some people who believe that means I'm going to pull up a chair and we're going to sit in your office for a couple of hours.
No, that's not what it means.
I don't think you want to do that.
You have 10 seconds, and then you need to move on.